Hi everybody, it's Joshua here. I'd like to speak for a moment about people, individuals, rights and laws and viewpoints. As humans, we have a lot of different ideas about what's right and what's true, but amidst it all we have to live our lives. We can't spend every moment of every day arguing or disputing or debating our ideals or values with others. And it's my belief that, to an extent, individual rights should be upheld at any cost. Unfortunately, often we're faced with particular issues. One issue I would like to start off with for my example is stem cell research. And while people may have different conflicting opinions on stem cell research, the root of the opposition of this research is based on fundamentalist Christian beliefs. Now there's also the issue of the pro-lifers, which is a funny wording of being anti-personal rights, but it brings up the issue of when is a life a life? When is a baby really a baby? And all of these issues are very personal and very controversial. Stem cell research, on the other hand, is not very controversial at all. It seems like those who don't understand it wish to push their beliefs on it to make it unattainable for those who do want to use it. The reason being that one might say it's not our right to play God. And in this sense, we're putting it into, quote, God's hands. So when we see things like this happen, many of us speak out and say this is unjust and this is what religion has brought and these are the problems it's created. Now when the religious folks hear this, they tend to assume that those who are opposed to these ideas or opposed to these organized structures of fundamentalism, they tend to assume that these people are opposed to God or angry with God. And I think there are two levels of animosity towards these belief systems. And on one level, a person is angry at religion in general. They're angry with the world, they're angry with the way things are going. Sometimes their life isn't what they wanted it to be. So they say, how dare you say that there's a God? Why would your God let these things happen? Why would your God let these things happen? That's not the way I see it. I don't have any anger towards a God, if there is a God, and I don't feel that things are going down the tubes as much as some people tend to think. I just have a different view on humanity and our purpose. But I build that day by day, and it's constantly changing. And often I'll get into a conflict with someone who does have a belief system. So the issue I wanted to tackle here was the fact that I'm never opposed to what a person believes. I'm only opposed to how it affects the world around us. And stem cell research could do a lot of good. But being tied up in the courts is, as it always has been, is due to the fact that 80% of this country are Christians, and or at least declare themselves to be Christians. And in that 80%, we have a large portion who generally follow what the church tells them. So if the church is opposed to stem cell research or the church is opposed to abortion, they wouldn't dare think for themselves. Now the reason why abortion was an issue with the church and contraception was an issue with the church for so long had nothing to do with the fact of stopping lives from coming into fruition. It had to do with keeping the members of the church at adequate numbers. By keeping Catholics from using birth control, you're increasing the numbers of the church exponentially, and that pays off financially. A lot of folks can't see that. So I guess what I'm saying is that I feel like the religious extremists are shortchanging God. They are almost offending any form of entity or superior being which may exist by putting their own values onto it or him. I'm not a doubter that there may be a force beyond me. There's no way and no right that I have to dispute that. In fact, I'm convinced of it. But not understanding how that works doesn't give me the right to inflict my own opinions on others in the way they live their lives. And my thought is this. As far as stem cell research, it has nothing to do with playing God. What it has to do with is being part of God. And there's the large difference in the way people see it. I see the research as being the fruition of man's original desire to know and to understand and to improve the world around us. And I wonder why, in some cases, we can improve the world around us and it's considered a good thing, and if we do something for ourselves, it's considered selfish or against the grain of God. But some issues are very complex, like abortion. I don't know what to think about abortion, but I do understand that the world, as we live in it today, has to utilize that method until we figure out a better way to control our populations. We have too many people, and the world is not designed to support this many people. So the only reason we have all this technology, or have all these people, is because of the technology that we've developed to get here. The Industrial Revolution. And now with the computer age, we can automate so many things that it takes a lot of the work off of us as humans. And I think that's an awesome thing. But there's a tipping point. We get to a degree, to a point, where it's no longer sufficient to keep creating new things and to keep reproducing. We have limited resources on this planet, and the way we're using them right now is not proper. We know this. But imagine the billions and billions of dollars that are spent taking care of issues that may be able to be cured by something like stem cell research. So in the long run, you're actually saving a lot of people, you're saving a lot of grief, and you're allowing those who exist upon this planet to live a better life. We know that the healthcare industry is not here to help us. The healthcare industry is here to make money. It's all about maintenance. It has nothing to do with curing. You know, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, that's true, but that's not the motto that our healthcare system follows, unfortunately. So I think that a solution is for us to step back and stop telling each other what we think that God wants, or what we think is best for the race, or what we think is best for the world. People have always had ideas about the best way to handle things. The church was in support of eugenics. I watched a documentary yesterday. It's called Eugenics 1900. It was disturbing. It must have been an old documentary. I don't know when it was made. But it was all old footage from the early 1900s, and it went through the entirety of eugenics from the time when it began, which, for those who don't know, eugenics is the science of creating the perfect human. And the belief was that through eugenics there was light and dark eugenics, or good and bad eugenics. There was one that promoted good, intelligent, capable people to reproduce. But that didn't work, so they went to the dark side, which is basically preventing those who are inferior from reproducing. And this started over in Europe, but the U.S. took it on. You can look at old U.S. literature about basically, to put it bluntly, keep people from, keep the idiots from reproducing. I mean, that was the motto, and we really thought at that point in time that we could change genetics of the entire race, as if we had some right to do that. But they believed that that was their human right. Even the churches, even the religious, they believed that that was their right to control who existed upon this planet. And once again, personal desire and craving for perfection or ego won over on reason. And it all came down to an argument between whether or not genetically inherited diseases were given by the environment. And the argument went that if it's from the parents, then we need to stop the parents from reproducing. And they went back and forth on this for decades. And finally, they were able to disprove that all of the genetic mutations were caused merely by inherited traits. Things such as radiation sickness, DNA mutations that are caused by external forces. We started to realize that it doesn't matter how perfect the people that breed are if the environment is failing us. And it doesn't give us any right to say who is superior or inferior. Now, to a degree, you can look at that. If you look at it objectively and you don't bring your feelings and emotions into it, you can look around and almost say, yes, there are people that shouldn't breed. I mean, I have seen idiot couples, no offense, I mean, mentally retarded couples having children. And to me, that shows that society is afraid of speaking up when they see things that are not necessarily productive in the whole of a society. And for me to say that, I have no right. I have no right to tell people they can't reproduce. No right to tell a person that just because they're mentally incapable of taking care of a kid, that they shouldn't have kids. But they do. And it affects our society. And I'm not standing up for the idea of eugenics at all here. I'm just merely pointing out how people thought in the past. I think it's a horrific thing. I don't think anybody has the right to tell anyone what they can or can't do. But then what about abortion? What about stem cell research? We're able to use stem cells to do some really amazing things. And as long as we're afraid of using human cells, we're going to have an issue of misunderstanding. And I think that the only thing that's keeping this issue at bay is fundamentalism. And so that was a long-winded way of saying this is how I feel about religion and why it's affecting society. The same as the politicians making decisions based on the fact that they believe that they have divine authority, that they believe that they are where they are because God wanted them to be there, and therefore they believe that the decisions they make must be the will of God. And there's so many angles to look at this, it's frustrating for a person to try to explain to a Christian that no, I'm not opposed to Christianity, no, I'm not opposed to Christ, no, I'm not opposed to reading the Bible or believing the Bible. I'm opposed with the short-sighted, conceited, self-determined attitude that so many Christians have towards believing what they want to believe, which parts of the Bible they want to believe, and omitting anything that may conflict with the way that they operate in their daily lives. And we can see that this is done throughout all cultures because communities that are right next to one another have completely different belief systems and the same religion. We adapt everything to our environment, and now we've learned to adapt our environments to us. And I'm not going to say that's a good or a bad thing, but we're being held back from moving forward by old thoughts and old beliefs and old dogmas. And I think we need to do something about it. So that's why I speak my mind. But know that I'm not ever opposed to a person for what they believe, just so long as what they believe isn't harming others. I really believe that we can all find a way to get along in this crazy place we call Earth. Peace out, everybody.